Chapter 14 of The Doll's House by Rumer Godden. On Christmas morning, the Plantagenets woke to hear real carol singers in the street outside. Peace and goodwill among men, sang the carol singers. And among dolls, said Mr. Plantagenet. I hope among dolls. Peace and goodwill. The voices brought Christmas into the doll's house. Can such a large thing as Christmas be in a doll's house? Asked Mr. Plantagenet. It is so large. See, it has spread over the whole world, and for so many years. Nearly 2,000 years, said Mr. Plantagenet, the dark brown of his eyes looking large too. How large it is, said Mr. Plantagenet. It is beautifully small too, said Totty. Perfectly small. You might think that to a doll many things would seem too large, but no. A doll is not as small as a beetle, for instance, and a beetle's world is just right for a beetle. When, too, you have lived as long as Totty, you will learn that small things are not as small as they seem, nor large things as large. Nothing is small and nothing is large when you have become accustomed to the world. Now the carols brought the spirit of Christmas into the doll's house. I like peace and goodwill, said Totty. I like the holly and the ivy, said Mr. Plantagenet. They are like the colours in this house. I like Prince of Peace. That suits it too. I know about peace now, said Mr. Plantagenet. In the days of the toy cupboard, he began, and his eyes looked darker, and he did not go on. Yes, I like the Prince of Peace, but the one that I like best of all is God bless the master of this house, because I am the master, said Mr. Plantagenet. Birdie liked the rocking carol, only she mixed it with Rock-a-Bye Baby, but after all, it was nearly the same thing. Peace and goodwill, sang the carol singers. The doll's house that Christmas looked very pleasant. Emily and Charlotte had decorated it. They made wreaths of moss on curtain rings that looked like holly wreaths, and they had strung holly berries for garlands. Emily had even made a paper chain with very small links. Birdie liked the paper chain best of anything. The new chairs and couch looked handsome in the drawing room, and there was a Christmas tree 6 inches high, standing in a wooden pot. It was the kind of Christmas tree you have on Christmas cakes. It was just right for the Plantagenets. Would you like to give one of the Plantagenets this for Christmas? Asked the children's mother, coming into the room. I must have had it at a party long ago. She showed them a parasol made of white paper printed with a pattern of purple and scarlet feathers. It could be up and put down, and had once fitted into a cracker. Oh, for Birdie, cried Emily at once. How odd, thought Totty. How lovely and how odd. And for Apple, a marble. Wouldn't a marble make a ball for Apple? More and more odd, thought Totty, and still more lovely. Dana might have a new plate, said Charlotte, looking in the toy cupboard. This big tiddlywinks would do. The rest are all lost. It's a purple one. That would suit him nicely. More and more odd, thought Totty again, and more lovely. For Mr. Plantagenet they hung a buttonhole on the tree. It was made of woolen flowers. I don't much like that, thought Totty. Mr. Plantagenet did not much like it either. Is my Christmas spoilt? He whispered to Totty. No, said Totty, but I wish I could make it better. I wish that too, said Mr. Plantagenet. He suspected it was spoilt. At that moment the postman's knock sounded from the front door. Emily and Charlotte ran to open it. He had brought 2 parcels, a light thin one, the shape of a flat cardboard box, and a small one, the shape of a child's shoebox. It was very heavy. Emily opened the flat, light one first. What is it? Asked Charlotte. What is it? Oh, she cried as Emily set up a cardboard counter painted with netting. Oh, it's a post office, a toy post office. Oh, cried Totty, and she caught Mr. Plantagenet's eye. Look at the stamps, said Emily, and the stamper. Let me look at the stamps, cried Mr. Plantagenet. Let me look at the stamper, cried Apple. The toy post office was complete. It even had 2 letter boxes labelled packets and newspapers and letters. It had stamps and certificates and postal orders and telegraph forms and letter paper and postcards and stamped envelopes. It had a red tin telephone and a purple ink pad for the stamper. "But what shall we do with it exactly?" asked Charlotte. "We can tell you," wished Totty, and Mr. Plantagenet together, and Emily, as if she had felt them wishing, looked at them. Then she looked only at Mr. Plantagenet. "I know," said Emily slowly. "I know, Charlotte. It shall be Mr. Plantagenet's office. He shall go there to business every day." "As a postman?" asked Charlotte. "As a postmaster," said Emily. "A postmaster!" cried Mr. Plantagenet, and his waistcoat seemed to swell and grow bigger. "Did you hear, Totty? I am a postmaster. Did you hear, Birdie dear? Now I have nothing left to wish for. Did you hear, Apple? Oh, how happy I am. Did you hear," he was about to say, "did you hear, Dana?" when he remembered that Dana was a dog and could not be expected to recognize the difference between Mr. Plantagenet postmaster and plain Mr. Plantagenet. He stopped. His attention was caught by Dana. Dana was looking at the other parcel. All his wool stood on end. "Prick," said Dana at the parcel. "Prick."